Hi, I'm Steve Baker. I'm General Manager of Caliber Equipment. Caliber Equipment is a company that specializes in industrial floor cleaning machines and commercial applications. We represent a wide variety of lines, and so it is my intent today to describe how we can help you in determining what might be the best floor cleaning machine for your specific needs. Today we're going to focus on floor scrubbers, which are going to be applied as a wet application for cleaning, and is going to involve soapy solution being dispersed by floor scrub brushes, which will either be cylindrical or disc. They will actually agitate soapy water into the floor, and as the machine propels forward, the squeegee blades at the rear of the machine will accumulate the water and vacuum it up and put it into the recovery tank, leaving your floor clean and dry, which is the primary purpose. Now, the cylindrical machine has the added benefit that if you have solid material on the floor, pallet chips, paper tags, nuts and bolts, all that material will be picked up by the cylindrical scrub brush system and deposited into a separate tray. And the way that's going to occur is that these types of brushes are set up to be parallel to each other underneath the frame of the machine. And because they're rolling in counter rotation form, any debris that comes in underneath the first broom is going to be lifted by the second broom, and it's going to be deposited into a tray that sits at the rear of the second brush. That removes the debris from the floor and keeps it from getting caught up in the squeegee blade at the rear of the machine. Now, over here, we have several varieties of disc style brushes. Generally, on the machines that we're talking about, you're going to have at least two brushes. And they're also going to be turning in towards each other, so you're not throwing water away from the machine where it can be picked up by the squeegee at the rear. But there is no opportunity to pick up solid debris. So if you have solid debris on your floor, it stays on the floor. Now, one thing that can happen is if you have a lot of solid debris, if the solid debris gets caught by the squeegee blade at the rear of the machine, it can cause this rubber blade to lift. And when it does, the water's going to go right past, leaving a streak on the floor that'll be obvious, potentially a slipping hazard, plus it's dirty water, which means when it dries, it's going to leave a little bit of a dark stain behind on your floor. So the other thing is if it doesn't lift the blade, some of your solid debris may get picked up by the vacuum effect and deposited into your recovery tank. Now, both of these machines are equipped with baskets to strain out the debris. So that's not the biggest problem, getting into your tank where it eventually goes down your floor drain. We can correct for that with the machine. If it gets caught up in the squeegee blade, it's in the hose attached to the squeegee blade, then it can be more of a problem because it can lead to a dam-like effect, blocking the squeegee, shutting down your ability to vacuum the water up, and it'll have to be corrected by cleaning out the whole system. So debris is a little bit of a bother to the operator because he's going to have to get off the machine. He's going to lose productivity as he's clearing the squeegee blade. So cylindrical looks like it might be the way to go. But this is a compromise. One of the things that I wanted to be able to accomplish with this video is to help you discover which is preferable for your application. So going back, if you have a lot of solid debris, this machine can work better. But one thing that this machine can't do is achieve the same level of down pressure that a disc machine can. For one thing, I'm going to just step on this brush and it's going to flatten out. Those bristles are not going to be able to sweep or perform as well when they are flattened out. So they limit the down pressure on cylindrical machines, so sometimes as much as 50% of a disc machine. Now on a disc machine, I can use really aggressive bristles, a soft red pad for finished floors, or a medium grade grit brush. It doesn't matter which bristle I use, I can literally put all the down pressure of the machine on this brush without deflecting the bristles. That means you're able to transfer a lot more pressure without a detrimental effect to the floor. The point I'd like to make is that when we wash the bottom of a blackened pot, we take that aggressive Brillo pad and we're going to push it hard into the pot. in an agitation way, and we're going to have the water and the soap mix to emulsify the grease, but it's that down pressure that's really going to scrape away the dirt and grime. It's the same thing with scrubber machines. So it can be said that disc might potentially scrub more effectively than a cylindrical brush if you have an extremely dirty application. But in most applications today with finished floors or densified floors, polished, diamond polished floors, maybe the dirt's not as significant as it was in the past, so both machines could perform very adequately for your application regardless of which one you choose. One thing about cylindrical maintenance, these machines have the capability of having strings wrapped around them, and when they do, you'll start getting deviations in the material. That deviation can come from wire wrapping, it can come from plastic wrap, strings, whatever you might have on the floor. It just wraps around this, and when it starts cutting these bristles, now you're going to end up with a scrub path that has some obvious variances in it that you don't want to see on your floor. So this has the potential to be a little bit more high maintenance. The brushes tend to cost about $100 a set more than disc brushes for the same grit capability. So you're going to pay a little bit more for cylindrical. Another thing is you should notice on the decks that on a cylindrical deck, it has to be completely level to the floor. One brush has to match the other brush in terms of evenness to the floor, and it can't be twisted right or left. If this brush is going down the floor and it's riding like this at an angle to the floor, you're wearing out this side of the brush more than you're wearing out this side of the brush. The problem with that is that when you come in and get an adjustment by your operator and he brings it back to level, this is obviously as a result of an impact situation. When he does, this brush is now worn unevenly. It'll never be brought into balance. So the brush gets replaced. But you don't have to sweep, which is a huge savings. So it's a trade-off. It's up to the customer to decide. If you notice, if this machine has string wrapping around the perimeter of it, it just stays there till the end of the shift. The person can take the brush off, and it's very likely that string will never cause any permanent damage to your machine or to your brush. Although we still recommend you pick that material up by hand before you do any scrubbing action. So those are the two differences. Potentially a lower cost in maintenance, potentially a better scrub for the down pressure, but you don't have to pick up any solid debris. And if your application has a lot of debris, it's a no-brainer to go with cylindrical. And if you don't, like you're a shopping center or a mall, go with the disc. And those are the two differences in the two machines that I brought up here today. But they're not the only differences. Some of the other things we want to talk about with this piece of equipment. Here we have a machine that's approximately, well, it's in the same category in terms of small battery-operated floor scrubbers. This is the kind of machine that could be used in a newspaper manufacturing or a print shop. It can be used in a metal fabrication. It can be used in a 70 or 80 or 100,000 square foot warehouse. It can be used in a commercial application where you have a lot of hard surfaces, like I mentioned in the mall. So there's lots of applications for this. And it's not really talking about, we're not really talking about large distribution centers that might be 300, 400, 500,000 square feet or even larger. Those facilities require a different type of cleaning machine. This is for really the choice to get the job done in a highly productive manner. And also you have enough square footage that it makes sense to provide a rider so that the work gets accomplished. Let's talk about riders versus walk-behinds. A walk-behind scrubber can come in many forms. It can come in a micro scrubber, a little box about this big, maybe 15 inches. It can come in a typical commercial machine, is a 20-inch machine. It's a single disc, and it's going to provide a 20-inch scrub path, and it carries about 10 to 14 gallons of water traditionally. We have dual disc walk-behind scrubbers from 24, 26, 28 inches all the way up to 32. Those machines can get up to a size that's comparable to the rider. But the big difference in battery operated scrubbers is less down pressure. These machines can go up to 250 pounds, and it's rare to see a walk behind that can do better than 200. Mostly it's about 150, and some are even 80. So you want to watch out for that issue. So riders bring you more down pressure. And another thing that's really important is that walk behinds are traditionally operated by a person who's the limitation on how fast they can go. Now, people walk at various speeds. A typical speed for a small 20-inch machine might be 1.5 miles per hour. And I say that because it's often a brush drive, which means there's no self-propelled design to that machine. The operator pushes it, and the brush in its circular motions tends to draw the machine forward, so there's not much resistance, but it's still a push machine, 1.5 miles an hour. Now, if you get a self-propelled machine, I've studied this and determined that it's about 2 miles an hour a typical person will walk. Now think about it, when you walk around the block, you might be walking at 3 miles an hour, but a machine will not keep up to that pace, 3 miles an hour, if an operator's behind it. The operator's going to slow down and use a casual pace as he's walking across the floor. But 2 miles an hour is important to us in terms of determining productivity. When you get on this rider machine, you may not go as fast as it's capable of, which is about 3.5 miles an hour, but let's give it credit for doing 3 miles an hour. Now, 3 miles an hour can be a person's fast walking pace. You're going to have to hustle to keep up with this machine if you were tracking it down the floor while someone was operating it. So with that in mind, let's look at what they're capable of doing in terms of productivity. If you take a 24-inch scrubber, that's 2 feet wide, and you're operating 2 feet wide and you're going forward at 2 miles an hour, it's 2 times 4 is 8 times 5280, and I'm going to use my calculator. 8 times 5,280, and that happens to be our conversion to get square foot per hour. So 2 times 5,280, we're at actually 21,120. That gives us our square foot for a 2-foot wide machine at 2 miles an hour. Now I'm going to show you about the 3 miles an hour. If we had the same 24-inch wide, 2 times 3 times 5,280, instead of 21, it's going to do 31,680. We just picked up a 50% increase in our productivity in an hour. Now you say, well, what does that mean to me? Let's say you had a 60,000 square foot facility, which is about the size of the building we have here. And if somebody asked me to walk behind and clean this entire building, I'd look at them like they're crazy. It's theoretically going to take me about 2 hours at 31,000 square feet in a rider, and 3 hours using a walk behind. 3 hours. When was the last time any of us walked 3 continuous hours? I walk around the block for an hour and I think I've really accomplished something. So be careful what you ask of your employees. That by giving them a rider, they can stay at task and they get more work done in a shorter period of time. That's the true value of a rider machine. Now, these machines that I brought out today, this is a 28 and this is the 30. And based on the formula, just keep in mind you take the width of the machine, which is in inches, divide that by 12 to get feet, multiply it times the speed that you expect this machine to go, 2 miles an hour for a walk behind, 3 miles an hour for a rider, and multiply times the feet in a mile, which is 5280. And then you will get what the machine is capable of doing theoretically. So that puts every machine on an even playing field, because we want to be able to compare one machine in terms of its capacity and size to another machine without regard to vendor or the company that's selling it or the salesman. Now, when you have that figure, that is theoretical. Theoretical means that that is what the machine is expected to do in a wide open area. But Stephen, if you just scan that room here, you're going to see that in this area that we're dealing with, it's filled with equipment. I'm not going to be able to clean all the area in my facility. So typically when I ask people, how much can you really scrub in your 60,000 square foot area? They'll say half of 60 is 30. So either one of these machines will clean your facility in about 1 hour. If there's a difference between the 30 and the 28, it's so minimal that you're talking about a few minutes. And I don't think that's enough myself to make a decision on which machine that I'd want to purchase. So this machine will do a medium-sized facility in 1 hour, or it can go 2 hours if you have double that capacity. You got 60,000, you got a 120,000 square foot facility. So this machine is capable of doing a lot of work in a short period of time and will handle relatively large facilities. Now, when you look at the statistics, most people have under 120,000 square feet of space that they want to clean. Again, we're not talking about the distribution centers. So these machines will fit probably 80 to 90% of the applications that we're talking about. So when people come and they start talking to you about this $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 machine, you really ought to ask yourself, what's the benefit? Their sales commission or my needs as a person who's responsible keeping and maintaining a facility? Okay, now today we're going to talk about Ryder floor scrubbers. These small Ryders have a lot of similarities, and some of the things I like to point out. The capacity, they're both about 30 gallons. They're both 4 battery machines, 24 volt systems. They both have a similar scrub path, 28, 30, 26, 32. They're close enough in most applications where they're not significantly different across the brands. So look at the design. This machine has a motor mounted on the front wheel, and this machine has a motor mounted on the front drive wheel. And you can see it's just basically an electric motor mounted to the wheel itself. That gives you a good propulsion because it's in front of the scrub system, so it's not sliding around in soapy water. And there's really, I can't think of anybody that's designed their machines differently. They're all pretty much the same. At the back you have caster wheels. They're supporting the weight on the back end of the machine. Both of these machines have very similar caster wheel arrangements that are going to support the weight of the machine and just follow the drive wheel. So the deck sits in the center of the machine. Now, one thing you'll notice is that in contrast to a walk-behind scrubber where the brushes are traditionally mounted in the front of the machine, where you can push it into a corner and get into tight access areas, on this machine you have to be able to drive down an aisle and get close to the edges, which you can do, but you can't go into a corner and make a tight turn. You'll end up leaving some dirt behind. Stephen, point over in that corner there. You'll see how we've got dirt in that corner where someone was testing machines. They didn't get into the corner. So that's the downside of Ryder scrubbers, is that less maneuverability than a walk behind. But the productivity is going to remain pretty much the same regardless of the choices that you make. So one of the things I like to point out is if these two machines are comparable, and this one is 10,000 plus minus, this is 15,000 plus minus. I'm sorry, you have to call me for the best price. On this machine, they designed the machine to give you ease of use that you won't necessarily find on this machine. It costs more electronics, more capabilities, more information. This machine is much more basic. Basic is not a bad thing. Basic means that you have less things to maintain. You can have a car with every possible feature in it, known to man, but when it comes time to repair some of them, it's going to cost you some money. Or you can get the most basic pickup truck from the 1960s and find out there really isn't much to go wrong and you can fix it. Now, if you're that kind of person, if you're in the maintenance department and you're that kind of person, if you're the guy paying the bills for the guy in the maintenance department and you're that kind of person, this is the machine you want. Now, the way this machine is designed, very simple in its control panel. It uses toggle switches. Toggle switches are easily replaced They're inexpensive, and it's just a matter of pushing the toggle switch forward to actuate. In this case, this is going to turn your brushes when the deck is in position on the ground. This other one drives your vacuum motor, and it's a simple on-off switch. Now you also have two levels of speed control here. You have turtle and rabbit. Obviously the rabbit is the faster propulsion, but that gives the operator two levels of speed. Well, why is that important? When he's going back to get water, you want him to giddy on up there. And if he's coming back to scrub, you want him to slow down, be careful, and operate at a slower speed. So they've given the operator the basics of what he needs to do his job effectively. Okay, this machine is strictly manual. And when it comes to the deck, there's a linkage which lifts the machine off the floor. In other words, when I step on this pedal, it's going to be stepped on with enough force to raise the deck off the floor. But when I want to release it, I release the catch and the deck drops down. Now the advantage of that is there's really nothing that can go wrong. There are metal bars in there, there's bushings, bearings, and when I want that deck back up, I just step down and the deck is raised. No problem. Now when it comes time to lift the squeegee bar, there is a cable device. When I want to go up with the squeegee and raise it to transport the machine without scrubbing, I lift the bar. When I'm ready to go, I lower the cable and let the squeegee rest on the floor. As I drive forward, it starts to put the squeegee in a position where it can start accumulating the water. This machine has forward and reverse. The pedal, you push forward, you kick back on reverse. This is pretty standard, although this is a little bit of a nice feature that it goes in reverse with the pedal. Most rider machines, you actually have to create a reverse situation using a separate button. You'll see that on a lot of machines, and when they say ease of use, ask them about that feature. By kicking back on your heel, you go into reverse, you're freeing up your operator to do things without really having to think about it. Now, on this machine, this is the Mach 750, and this is the Advenger 2805 cylindrical with EcoFlex. Now, the advanced machine has a more sophisticated control system, but actually it's a very easy to operate control system. Why do I say easy? Because when you go in reverse on this machine, the operator must remember to lift up the squeegee blade by lifting up the cable lever and lifting the blade off the ground. He must remember that, or he's potentially backing up with the squeegee in reverse and it'll double and possibly get caught underneath the wheel. It's just a problem. We want them to lift the blade when they go in reverse. On this machine, it's a smart machine. It knows when you step on that pedal to go in reverse, the blade comes up automatically with an actuator. So the operator really doesn't have to have a great deal of training. Another thing is on the control panel, you ask the operator to sit here and you'll see that it has a green band and a red band in the center. When the operator turns on his key and presses the button, the deck is automatically going to position itself on the floor at the first level of down pressure. Now, that down pressure setting is indicated by the first blue light. If I want additional down pressure, I'm going to show that again. If I want additional down pressure, I hit the plus, and if I want less, I hit the negative. Now notice how that's in sync with the water solution flow. The water solution flow, it's assumed that when you want minimal down pressure, you've got a pretty light application, you don't need a lot of water. So they automatically adjust that for you. On the other hand, if you get up to, let's start at the beginning, we hit the button and we go to the highest level, but I don't want to use any more water because I'm double scrubbing, I can cut my water down to nothing, and that way I'm not putting an excessive amount of water. So the operator maintains control. He has to know how to work the machine, but if he doesn't really want to know how to work the machine, you can tell him, green button go, red button stop. And since the green and the red, it just depends on the toggle, he will quickly understand. Now this button here indicates EcoFlex. EcoFlex is a built-in soap dispensing system. That system allows the operator to fill up a separate container on the machine with your type of soap, and it will be dispensed into the machine at a set ratio. On this machine, it's not my intent to go over how to operate this machine. We'll have additional videos for that. But what I want to tell you is that on this machine here, no soap dispensing. It's available in other models, but on this machine, you can get a soap proportioner on your wall, and you can put your hose down in and blend the soap and the water coming from a dispensing system mounted on the wall, or you can simply pour it into a bucket, splash it into the tank, and you can mix your soap manually. Over here, they're saying, take your bottle of soap, pour it into a container on board, and every time you operate the machine, the same ratio of soap to water will be used. Now, you can cut this system off completely if you don't want to use it and just want to wash with fresh water. Or if you come across a very dirty area and with the ratio that you set up isn't adequate, you can get a burst of power. Additional down pressure, additional soap for 1 minute timed before it cuts off. The system's designed to minimize the application of soap in the system to save you money, to save the environment, and basically it's a cost controlling system. Now, the other features here is you want to use a wand, you can bypass the vacuum system here by touching this button, and it's continuous vacuum, just like we're able to touch one button over here for continuous vacuum. And a horn, and this is an indication of the soap dispensing. It allows you to use the monitor to increase or decrease the ratio of soap to water, and all that information is going to be in your manual, and it's fairly easy for you to follow. Now, of course, when you have electronics, you have the ability to determine your battery level, your down pressure settings, your hour meter. All this information becomes available to the operator. Well, I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to me today about floor scrubbers in general and these machines specifically and the different types that are out there and sometimes even the cost differences. One thing that I failed to mention I'd like to add now, factory warranty. Factory warranty covers manufacturer defects, but keep in mind that if this big $600 or $800 motor or whatever it costs fails on this machine, it's covered by the manufacturer for 5 years. If it fails on this machine, it's covered by the manufacturer for 1 year. Labor is covered for 2 years. Labor is covered for 1 year. The tanks themselves are covered for like 8 years on the advanced machine. That's your roll-to-molded product. So when people look at machines, sometimes they say, well, what am I going to pay down the road? You're going to get a break on a lot of your maintenance when the factory carries a long warranty. There's no doubt about it. But it may never happen because these are fairly reliable machines, and it's very rare that we're going to process a warranty from a 5-year-old machine because they just don't fail. Somebody might break one, but they don't fail due to a manufacturer defect. But that warranty is still there, and it depends on how you feel about warranties. If you want the warranty, this machine costs more, but it's going to give you more. If you want the basics, mechanical, I can fix it myself, what do I care about factory warranties? They probably won't process it anyhow. You want this machine, you'll save 1/3. It's your choice. So hopefully I was able to bring some issues to your attention that you might not have thought about, and this would be a benefit to you to help you make a decision. I'd also like to remind you that you can call Caliber Equipment on our webpage, calibrerequipment.com, at any time, and you'll see all my contact information listed on the page. Give me a call. I'll be happy to help you with these machines, walk-behinds, sweepers, virtually anything that cleans the floor we handle. Would love to talk with you. Thank you for your time.